Hey guys, Ridiculous Badger coming at you from Planet 545. Just wanted to touch a little bit on best practices during an ad leadership event, which is one of those cool things that comes around very, very seldomly. And when it does, everybody goes kind of crazy and adds a ton of leadership, and it's great. But I just want to make sure that people are not wasting the resources that they have, either in gold or in magazines. So, there are a lot of videos out there already as to what the ad leadership event is. And I don't want to step on any other content creators' toes, so I'm going to keep this real tight. How far down should you go on the success rate of adding leadership during an ad leadership event? A lot of people go all the way down to 60%. That is a waste of magazines. What I did is I took The Exorcist, and from a natural release, I took her down from 100% success rate to 60% success rate, which is what a lot of people do regardless of how much gold they have to throw at the event or magazines they have to throw at the event. It took her to 3,648 leadership, which is a transferable leadership of 3,608. Because she is B class and she is level 1, she starts at 40 leadership. That does not transfer. That cost me 1,960 magazines. Then I took Fabienne and Axe, and I raised them in leadership until their success rate went down to 80%. I used 1,920 magazines to get both Axe and Fabienne to that 80% mark. Fabienne has 2,002 transferable leadership now, and Axe has 2,004. Between them, that is 4,010 transferable leadership, and it cost me 1,920 magazines. Whereas Exorcist has 3,608 transferable leadership, which is 402 less than Axe and Fabienne together, and it cost me 1,960 mags, which is 40 more mags, for a loss of 402 leadership. Not worth it. It is better to take them down to 80% and then absorb. You're going to be getting them back anyway through release 10s, and the vast majority of people don't have enough magazines or gold to get everyone down to that 60% success rate anyway, so don't sweat it. Spread out your leadership. Second thing that I want to go over is where should you be putting this leadership? So I say spread out your leadership. Spread it out to your natural D, C, and B commanders. Don't use A commanders, or I should say, don't use commanders that release at A, or unique commanders that require events to get, or faction commanders. Don't use those as your mules. Reason for that is if they're not currently at S-Class, it's going to be a really long time before they get to S-Class. And if they are currently at S-Class, you're not going to get the use out of them that you want, which is if you're using them as a mule for leadership, that means that you want to absorb them. So you're not going to be able to use them in that fashion unless you're willing to lose them for a long time, or you are waiting for the event. It's just going to take you too long to get them back and to get them back to S. And now in your faction quests weekly, as long as you ever release the commander once, they have a shot to show up. And if your server has a free S commander event, even if you don't get that S commander at the end of it, the game still considers that as though you released that commander. It's just you then lost it, technically, later. As thanks to Krylar for teaching me that. So it's not worth it. Do it on your DC and B commanders. And if you, for some reason, let's say you have so many magazines that you could fill out your DC and B commanders, well, just then absorb some and use some release 10s. We're in the middle of a release 10 event anyway for Gilly, so, and just boost them again. Which leads me into my next point and my last one, which is, when do you absorb these commanders? You don't have to, directly after boosting them up during the Add Leadership event, you don't have to absorb them. So you don't have to only boost up your S commanders, which is why, like, if you boost up all your natural release DC and B commanders, or, you know, the commanders that release themselves as a DC or B class, if you happen to have those all up to S class, you know, that's great. And let's say you load them all up with leadership, and all of their success rates for adding leadership get down to 80%. Don't start adding leadership to, like, Elf in order to use her as a leadership mule and then absorb her. It's a waste. Just absorb some of those commanders, use a release 10, and then you could load them up again. And you don't, even though they're not S-class yet, because you just released them, they still have all of the benefits of the Add Leadership event, and you could always absorb them by a commander at a later date. You could spend months with a B commander at 2,000 leadership and just absorb it later once it does get to S, and once you figure out actually where you want it. So to recap the 3 points, number 1, success rate, take them down to 80%. Don't take them down to 60%. You use way more mags. It's a gigantic waste. Second is add leadership to the commanders that release through a normal daily free release out of your warp gate as a D class, a C class, or a B class. And third is don't rush to absorb the commanders that you boost up for the leadership. Take your time, really strategize, sit down, think. Is your main in keeping with the current meta? Maybe you need to switch mains. Even though you spent a lot of resources on your main, you don't throw good money after bad. There's always a chance that you might need to switch things up. So don't rush. You can absorb that leadership anytime you want. Just boost them up during the event, and later on you could assess. Talk to your guild mates. They will help you. Thanks a lot, guys. If I am mistaken in anything, please let me know. I will post a correction. I hope everybody is having a great time and have a safe flight.